Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Hogarth's Global Astrology. Know your planets, know yourself, or know your nation, know yourself. The two are interchangeable. Right, well, okay. Today we're going to talk again about 2024 and what we can potentially expect in 2024. And I'm also going to talk about some of the predictions that I made last year. I'm going to show you a tiny little clip where appropriate of this video that I made about Saturn accountability. Now, what's today's date? Today's date is the 29th of November 2023. And I made this video on the 22nd, but it will show as the 23rd in the listings on the 22nd of December 2022. Last year, I was looking back at it and I was thinking like, oh, I looked so kind of like, even though I had a cough at the time, I just thought I looked so kind of rosy and younger. I think it's been a tricky one because since January 2023, of course, Saturn as sidereally has changed signs and he's moved into my 8th house now. And of course, while I'm still alive and all that kind of stuff, but I think I can see the difference. I think I can see the difference. However, anyway, such is life. This is what happens. Things mature, and we change, and lighting changes, and I'm using a different camera and all of that stuff. Anyway, so first things first, I want to say as well. Please don't forget, of course, to if you've not done so already, to like and subscribe and share. And click the bell notification as well, so you will know when my next videos are up, and it really helps. And I just want to thank everyone who has been supporting my channel over the years, and the new supporters as well, and all of my clients and stuff, and just the amazing journeys we've been taking together. And for the many of you as well who have also, maybe I've not noticed so much, but many of you are talking about how much you consider that I have grown as well as a YouTuber, as an astrologer and stuff like that. So it's much appreciated. And it's really nice to kind of reflect and kind of like look back, and people will kind of remind you of stuff and everything like that. And today I'm a little bit tired today because I did a big blog today. It's actually not that long. It took me forever. I mean, literally, I'm talking like a proper, like a day's work, good 8-9 hours, I think, in the end, because what I've done is I realized I've not blogged for a while, so I'll put the link to that blog below. And I should blog more often. I'm going to try and blog kind of maybe like quarterly or something like that. I'm never going to be someone who's going to bombard you with lots of kind of like emails and stuff, because I do not have the time or the inclination. Oh, my phone just had a little beep. But the important thing is with this blog that I wrote, and I'll be emailing that out as well to my mailing list as well. I'll put the link to that blog in the video below, and I think I'll also post the blog as well to my community page on my YouTube channel, because it covers quite a lot of stuff, and it's also addressing basically a lot of the predictions that I made with my Saturn accountability video that I mentioned, which I did in December of 2022. Wow, so much of that has come true, particularly all of the stuff that I was talking about with crypto currency. Everyone, has heard of Bitcoin and stuff like that, but not necessarily everyone has heard of CBDCs, which are central digitalized bank currencies. And this is becoming more prominent. And this is one of the things I spoke about. And I said, the back end of 2023, we would hear more about it, but certainly going into 2024. And particularly so when Jupiter and Uranus change signs and they go into sidereal Taurus. Now, this is due to happen for Jupiter, which is also a planet of the economy, along with Saturn. Jupiter will be moving into sidereal Taurus, going from sidereal Aries, where he currently is now, around about the 1st of May 2024. A month later, Uranus will join Jupiter, also in Taurus, around about the 1st of June 2024. This is very significant. What does Taurus deal with? Taurus deals with tangible assets of all kinds, values, education, food, literally money and savings. So Jupiter, one of the planets of the economy, along with Uranus, the planet of sudden shocks and surprises, innovation, technology, advanced technology of all kinds. What do you think is going to happen when those two planets move into those signs? And, you know, I've said before, but I've seen it already, that this is when we're going to have much more on a global level, these made more mainstream, all of these kind of digital currencies and stuff like that. Will we see the digital dollar? Not just yet, but Europe is already, basically, they already have one. They're way advanced. And China, of course, has one as well. And we'll see more. We might even see the BRICS coin come out. So BRICS stands for, stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And this is going to be a oil and gold-backed currency, allegedly, which is obviously going to start competing with what? The petrodollar. So there's stuff like that. In my blog, I've put all of the links to the various different things because I also talk about Pluto as well. Pluto is in sidereal Capricorn. And Capricorn is all about what? Government, infrastructure. It deals with big companies. We're talking like huge companies, top-down structures. It deals with rules, regulations, all kinds of corporate entities and financial institutions, including executives, top-down structures, power and stuff like that, ambition, hard work, but also can deal with restrictions and all of those kind of Saturnian things. Saturn is very strong at the moment. He was, when he entered sidereal Capricorn, around about the 30th of January 2020, what happened? Yeah, the whole world went into lockdown. The nodes of the moon were in sidereal Gemini and Gemini and Sagittarius, which is one of the most tumultuous parts of the sky. The nodes of the moon also are known to create pandemics as well, along with Mars, and even Neptune can do it too. So there was many alignments that happened, but all that lockdown, all of that restriction, all of us being the rules and regulations, remember those? Yeah. Saturn, yeah, that was Saturn. And then what happened? Around about the 1st of January 2021, we had Pluto, which deals with what? The underbelly, the darkest of what humanity can do. Can also deal with fascism and people trafficking and all sorts of, stuff. The positive of Pluto is alchemy and mea culpa and, resurrection and rising like a phoenix from the ashes. But as we know, humanity being what it is, it doesn't often take that higher path. And those in power in particular often seek to what? Dominate and control. Yeah. Or they become power hungry. You start getting the power grabs and you start getting power struggles and all sorts of things can bubble up in the world. Well, Pluto made that transition into sidereal Capricorn, which remember deals with government. And I predicted actually in November of 2020, I said something weird, something poopy, something strange is going to happen at the Capitol. Most likely there'll be some kind of riot. Obviously, I did not use the word insurrection because it had fallen out of popular use at that time. Yeah, none of us wouldn't, it wasn't in popular language. But you'll remember, if you look back at those videos, I looked at Donald Trump's chart and I looked at the 2020 election and I saw that huge eclipse that happened on his moon, which is already a very sketchy moon anyway. And I said it's going to go from bad to batshit. Do you remember me saying? I said he's going to do something crazy. And then when I actually looked at his daughter chart, Ivanka's chart, because she was about to turn 40 at the time, her Navamsha chart I looked at, which is the second half of life, really kicks in from age 40. When I looked at her chart from there and looked at the father, I could see Trump doing something berserk. And then when I could see that Pluto was about to transition into sidereal Capricorn, moving through the tail of the flying gripe, which is said to be a type of eagle, and it was going through the tail end. And what happens with the tail end? And that's, you know, of the bird. You never want that point. You don't want the beak or the tail end or the claws. Yeah, we all know that. And then, of course, what happens on the 6th of January, we have the insurrection. And, of course, the place was defiled and pooped and peed on, as we know, and everything going on. And, of course, the GOP ever since, along with its aliases, Fox News and that and the other, have been trying to pretend that it was all a cakewalk and a picnic, you know, pretty much ever since. There was a brief moment of like, oh, my God, yeah, when they were like, we need to stop this. And then what happened? A certain McCarthy went to kiss the proverbial ring of a certain Duck L'Orange, and they all began to swing and forgot conveniently that their lives were threatened, and everyone was chanting hang Mike Pence and, you know, kill Nancy Pelosi and all of the craziness and absurdities that we've seen since then. So the blog kind of covers those elements there. But what I do is the elements that I'm discussing, I put the links to the relevant articles, to the relevant things, because what's happening is there is a general consolidation of power all round. So, of course, as you know, the media is keeping us entertained with the weapon of mass destruction. That is Donald Trump. Well, mass distraction. You never know, it probably facilitated mass destruction, but certainly mass distraction. And as you've seen, and as you've heard me kind of complain a little bit, it's just been Trump, 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 Trump. As you know, I feel like the news has stayed the same for the last 3 years. Yeah, there's been war and there's been Trump, and that's been about it. And of course, these things are important, but I do think people are starting to get tired. And I mentioned that as well in the blog, because there's a lot going on. So what's going on in terms of Pluto in Capricorn, which of course is the sign of government? Pluto deals with power and autocracies. What is an autocracy? An autocracy is essentially a system of power that is maintained by very few people. Yeah. We often use the word oligarchy, but it's lost a little bit of its potency. But really, that's essentially what these things, oligarchy, plutocracy, autocracy, is pretty much one and the same. But the autocracy has a specific thing to do with government structures and stuff like that. And of course, as I've said, ad nauseum, Pluto is in sidereal Capricorn and is going to be there for a while. Now, does that mean we're going to have to deal with endless autocracy until he moves out? No, not necessarily. But we've got to keep our eyes open, folks. Pay attention. And as you know, this is a big part of what I do, along with some others as well who report on international things and stuff like that. But it's really important because in Europe, as you will have seen, and also as well in Argentina, things are moving to the right. And one of the things I talk about in the blog, of course, is the effect of immigration on nations. And I give some really interesting statistics that you guys will not necessarily be familiar with, talking about the UK, Europe, and Australia, and how things happen there, and some figures that in terms that might really surprise people in terms of legal migration to the UK. You might be very surprised, and then when you contrast that with other places and with Australia, you'd be like, wow, yeah, it's very interesting. But what's one of the things that happen when there is a lot of migration? Because of course the world is in a state of tumult right now. We know there's a lot going on, many wars everywhere. Everyone's, you know, we've been talking about Ukraine, and then of course, you know, Gaza, you know, with Israel, but there's been a lot of stuff that's been happening in Africa as well, Nigeria, other places. We've got other conflicts going on, displacement of people in the Middle East, etc., and stuff like that. And because of that instability, and essentially because neoliberalism essentially is collapsing, you know, what's the neoliberalism? Privatize everything, outsource everything, send jobs abroad, etc., etc. What happens is domestic populations start feeling pressured, their living standards go down, and because essentially we have a kind of almost basically a kind of international corporate kleptocracy going on. I mean, I know that's a bit strong, but I mean that's pretty much it. Where you have these huge companies, Capricorn, you know, like I said, huge companies, top-down structures, etc., with vast, gargantuan amounts of wealth, which I discuss as well. I talk about, you know, Zuckerberg and Bezos and what happened, you know, over the pandemic, where there's this huge, one of the biggest transfers of wealth ever in human history. And I detail those and I support those with articles and stuff like that. So you can, it's not going to be a long read. I think it's still really, it's probably less than a 5-minute read, but it took a while because I wanted everything to be congruent. Because there are a lot of people that can sometimes make sweeping statements and stuff like that. And I think it's always important to at least try to back everything up and quote sources so people can understand the reasoning and the thinking, and you can see where I am, where I'm talking about the manifestations of the planets and what they are up to, and what, you know, Pluto in sidereal Capricorn means. What it means to have Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn and Aquarius, in his own signs. It's very important because, of course, with Vedic astrology, we take into account the precession of the equinoxes, where the stars move backwards by 1 degree every 71 years or so. And I made a recent video as well, as you guys will know, about the yugas, the cycles of human consciousness over a period of 24,000 years. And so we're having this coalescence here where, you know, humanity is wanting to progress up. Yeah, wanting to progress up. However, if I just take the photocopy of my design, here we are. You would have seen this. Here's the Kali Yuga. Yeah, this is the difficult times where all the barbarism and all this kind of stuff. A lot of religions emerged as well, monotheism. So if I read out, for example, the fall of Rome, in terms of what many would see as the official date, was the last Roman emperor is killed in 476 AD, with 500 AD being considered the absolute nadir of human consciousness. Yeah. I remember as well, there was a lot of civilization collapse. We had the emergence of the sea peoples, which was a big thing that got rid of, you know, like the Egyptians and whatever. I mean, this happened over periods of time. There was a lot of war, the famine, explosion, natural disasters, etc. There was a lot going on. Human consciousness is now beginning to rise up again. Yeah, we are now going into what is called Dwapara Yuga. Yeah, so this is descending Dwapara Yuga, and this is the ascending. Now here, this is when the age of magic, yeah, around about here, started to come in. And if we look here we are now. This where I've done this little yellow line. That's where we are now, in the beginnings of Dwapara Yuga, which is the age of energy, technologies, but also self-interest. Kali Yuga, of course, which has just happened before here, many people are still in that level of consciousness, unfortunately. Yeah, it takes a while for everyone to come along. You can get all of the consciousness in any kind of age. You know, the Satya Yuga is immensely, you know, spiritual people who really have a connection with God or the planets, or, you know, this, that, and the other, and they're really, you know, it's the kind of more kind of enlightened kind of stuff. Treta Yuga is the age of the mind, and that's the vast intelligence where the human intellect and capacity for memory is vastly expanded. And the Dwapara Yuga is when we go back into the energy age, which we have seen. There's this, you know, transition period, which is called a sandy period, which is equivalent to 10% of the total length of the age. But in Kali Yuga is about 100 years, which means we actually went into Dwapara Yuga officially in 1900. Think how much the world has changed since 1900. Wow. Yeah. I mean, no one would be. I mean, because if they're alive in 1900, I mean, they would be what, 123 years old. So unless you manage to live, you know, the perfect life, which is 120 years according to Vedic astrology, you're probably not around. But there are still plenty of people around who are now in their 90s and 80s and 90s, and they, you know, have lived long enough to see, well, not even they, we've all seen what huge expanses expansions in technology. Now we're dealing with what? AI. Yeah. So one of the things what I'm talking about, which is a tricky element for these times, a tricky moment for these times, is that the Kali Yuga consciousness is still there. The desire for people to consolidate their power and try and rule over others hasn't left the consciousness yet, because we're only still in the beginning part. However, the energy age is in and the technological age is in. So for those that are so minded, that are obsessed with power and control, which we see examples of all over the world, they're going to try and use what? Tech as part of it. And this also comes into what? The digital currencies. Now, once upon a time, many people would describe this stuff as conspiracy theory. Oh my God, these people scaremongering, whatever. It's not. Yeah, it's not. And that's why I took pains writing that blog today to show you how the energies are transitioning, because in Europe, as you've seen, there's this shift to the right. So we have, Hungary shifted to the right with Viktor Orban, who, of course, is one of the love tokens of Duck L'Orange, yeah, right now, throwing compliments between each other. Then we've seen Italy move to the right as well, with Georgia. Oh crumbs! Is it Marconi? I think it's Georgia Marconi. She's there as well. We have we saw that there was a big battle between Macron and Marine Le Pen. Yeah, that was pretty close. Remember, he can't run again. So next year she runs again. I think she's probably going to get in. And of course, most recently as well, we have seen in Holland, yeah, with Geert Wilders. He's now come into power, and he's considered a more right-leaning candidate. And of course, we've had Argentina with Javier Milei, who has got hair like like Halloween Elvis. It's true. So what is, we're seeing these energies. The reasons why Javier is in is because, obviously, and I addressed this in the blog, just the dire straits of the Argentine people, bless them, dire, with this plus 130%, I think it is, inflation now, which is just astonishing. And they've had that for years. 40% poverty in the country. Remember, Argentina used to be one of the richest countries in the world. There was once upon a time a saying which was, rich as an Argentine. Ooh, yeah. That is a long time ago now, isn't it? A long time ago now. So, of course, the populace are desperate. Milei used a lot of social media, TikTok and stuff like that. And not to be any insult to those of the younger generations, but, let's just say, TikTok is all about sound bites and tiny little snippets here and there. And I think there is a big lack of joined up thinking. Because is it really wise to kind of vote for someone who's saying, I want to legalize the sale of organs, your bodily organs, as if they grow back, women's rights, things to do with the environment, even wanting to get rid of the Department of Tourism? Like, how's that going to help the country? Yeah, tourism, like Argentina needs tourism. It's a key part of the economy, and then he's wanting to break off with China and break off with Brazil, which is since rolled back on because the whole reality check is coming. He wants to dollarize the whole of the Argentine economy, and he's saying it's going to take a couple of years now, and they don't even have enough dollars to be able to buy out all the pesos that are still there. And 2 years is a very, very long time in politics now. Things could be completely different by then. But when it comes to Europe and stuff, and this is what I discuss in the article as well, because the thing is, every country needs migration of some kind. It was ever thus. It has always been that humanity has migrated from one place to the next, trade routes, ancient, even when you look, the ancient travels, etc., all of that stuff. We have the 12th house in the astrology, which I refer to as the land of far, far away. And what I found is anyone with even so much as one planet in the 12th house, in the D1 or the D9, they will travel abroad in their lifetimes and will often live abroad. So we see it's part of the human condition. However, when more domestic populations start maybe feeling threatened or intimidated in some way, or the governments that they're in maybe start changing the language around immigration, etc., and stuff like that, and maybe try and blame immigration to a certain extent for maybe government failings, etc., all that kind of stuff, then we can often see that that people tend to vote more to the right. One of the main side effects and the most pernicious side effects of neoliberalism, with the outsourcing, of course, of labor or various different things to other countries, China most famously, but even China is now starting to feel that, you know, parts of Indonesia and Malaysia and India, for example, have taken up a lot of those extra industries and stuff, manufacturing, that China was previously doing. And because they decided to lock down for the best part of 3 years, I think it was 3 years and loose change, surprise, surprise, guess what? People need to kind of move on, yeah? But what all that outsourcing has done is, yes, it makes products cheaper for us to consume. And we've got these consumer-based economies, as we all know, yeah? Cheap T-shirts, this, that, and the other, cheap TVs, etc., etc. However, what it means is, though, the domestic wages of most countries have not gone up in significant ways, particularly in America. If you actually take the kind of mean average of the USA wage and take into account inflation, they say most Americans haven't had a pay rise since the back end of the 70s. And that is not a joke. I mean, think about it. I mean, that is a long time ago now. That is a long time ago. Look at inflation now. America is said to have one of the lowest rates of inflation in the developed world. But look what happened, you know, after the economies opened back out again, there was a lot of quantitative easing, there was a lot of furlough, etc., all of that stuff, because everyone was what? Told to stay at home. Economies were locked down. That's the first time we've ever had anything like this happen in the world's history to this extent. And I actually remember warning my staff at the time. Well, they're also my friends as well. But when I used to do events management, when I used to manage conferences and stuff like that, at a place called King's Place, and there was a team of us, and we dealt with everyone. We had people from like either local counselors events or small book publishing events, all the way up to Disney, Google, BlackBerry, I don't know if they're still around, Microsoft, all of the top international banking firms, film, industries of all kinds, done it all. And I was looking at that time, this was in the summer of 2019, and my friends will back me up on this if you actually got to meet them. And they reminded me, and can you imagine, I'm there trying to manage a conference there with my clients and, you know, all of the stuff and coordinating between the catering team and the production team and the stage managers and stuff like that. And my friends would come up to me and they would be asking me when their next audition is or why a certain relationship didn't work out. And I learned literally how to read astrological charts on the fly. I mean, I've been doing astrology and I've been interested in astrology since I was 8 years old. So, you know, I've had a bit of practice. Yeah. The Vedic came later, but I learned all the foundations of Western astrology from a young kid. But nonetheless, that's powerful training. Anyway, long story short, I was looking ahead to see what was going on. And I warned everyone. I said, guys, get extra jobs. I said, I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen, but I said in 2020, something is going to come across the whole globe, which is weird, strange, and it's even going to feel a bit evil. Yeah, it's going to be intense. And I said the average 9 to 5 is going to be thrown out of the window and it will never be the same again. And I had various different hypotheses. I thought it would be some kind of, maybe some kind of cyber attack. And there were lots of cyber attacks. And I thought maybe it would be kind of some kind of virus. But I was thinking maybe something more electronic or something like that, because I was seeing, things to do with, engineering and stuff like that. Anyway, I won't go down too far down that track. But look what happened. Yeah. Because what I was looking at the huge stellium of 7 planets on Christmas Day in sidereal Sagittarius at that time. And this was 2019, 2019. But when I looked at that lineup and when I saw where things went after that, and there was this kind of Pluto K2 Saturn combination, which is just, dire. Dire, very, very, very difficult and extremely malefic. The cruelty aspect of that was extreme, and I was just like, this does not look good. And then when I was looking at the nodes of the moon and where they sit and how they're associated with pandemics or calamities on Earth when they're in the signs of Sagittarius and Gemini, which is all what was happening, and voila. Anyway, I don't want to bang on too much about that, but many of my friends took my advice, and you know what ended up being really good for everyone. Well, not really good, but it was good for everyone in the sense of people who had jobs. We got furlough. So they had furlough, which means their wages were paid essentially by the government. Because they've got those extra jobs. And that, of course, is the reason why I was even able to start my YouTube channel in the first place. And I thought to myself, whenever will there be another time in history where I'll be paid to stay at home? And I knew it was unique. This will never happen again. Not to the same scale. They may try and bring it back, but the world is not going to have it. Not even China. And, we know they're fond of a lockdown. Just like so many other places. But the point is, these energies that we're dealing with, this Kali Yuga energy, where many of our leaders, sadly, are still in that old consciousness. Doesn't mean they're all there. Obviously, there's people of all the different consciousness here. And there are leaders that want to be more enlightened and, and stuff like that and bring positive changes. But the old guard are holding on, and now they're starting to use technology to try and consolidate their power yet further. And in my opinion, what a lot of this is about is these central digital bank currencies. Now, what's happened? Now, what I've done is I put a little link in the blog to a certain Christine Lagarde. Now, Christine Lagarde is she's the CEO of the European Central Bank. And someone managed to prank her a little bit by pretending to be President Zelensky of Ukraine. And you can hear the accent and stuff like that. It's quite convincing. But anyway, she opened up about a few things and really showed some of the mindset of what is going on. And some of the arguments do seem valid on paper. However, I look at the astrology, and in there, she was talking about, because he was obviously feeding her questions without her kind of like realizing it. It's very convincingly done. And she was saying that basically the European digital currency, or all digital currencies really, it will facilitate control. Now, why? Many people may not know this because most of my audience is in America and Canada. But there are many of you all over Britain, of course, and Australia as well, and across the wider world. However, many of you may not know this. It is currently, in some countries in Europe, you can only do so much of a transaction in cash. Poland, I've discovered, has the highest, which is 15,000 euro, but that's the max. If I remember correctly, in Portugal, Italy, and I think it was Belgium, it's 3,000 euro. 3,000 euro, which isn't that much. Isn't that much? But in France, it is 1,000. That is the maximum you can give anyone in cash. If you do more than that, you either get fined or you get put in prison. Yeah, I'm not joking. Like, this is like, you might be thinking, what? Yes. And on this video, Christine Lagarde talks about that. Yeah, because obviously that's an established rule. Now, I don't approve of such things. Now look, you know, and this says to prevent money laundering and all that kind of stuff, or terrorism, you know, etc. And there are certain arguments to that. And of course, you know, if someone's starting to kind of like maybe wanting to do, you know, like, yeah, more than 15,000 in cash, you know, whatever. Okay, fine. Let there be some checks and balances, maybe some, you know, looking at things. But to be fined and criminalized for that, I'm not so sure. I think that's maybe you guys would agree. I would consider that a tad authoritarian, because remember, I'm always looking at the astrology. Yeah. In the blog, I put in there the link so you can see for yourself, and it's this kind of crypto website or whatever. But anyway, it went kind of like viral. I think this happened back in May, and it was all over Twitter, which of course is now X and different places. This is bona fide. It's real. It's there. Watch it for yourself and see what you think. One of the advantages of a digital currency is that it is programmable. You've heard me mention this before. Gives a high level of control. Do you know that they can literally, if they wanted, they could have money that expires? Yeah, they're gonna have to see how far they can take it, of course. But one of the things Christine Lagarde talks about, she talks about the levels of transactions that they're prepared to allow before they step in and try and control things. And she says, well, maybe 300 to 400 euros we will allow, which is not a lot of money, but that could be dangerous. Yeah, think about it. Think about it. Think about the logic. Say you're going out to, you're doing Christmas shopping. Yeah, let's just use our logic here. You're doing Christmas shopping and you're in France. That means you cannot pay £1,000 for anything in cash. I mean, what they're going to do, money launder the handbags or something like that, or you know, what have you. And then if they're looking at to controlling cash value, you know, value items of maybe 400 euros and above, because she said 300 to 400 euros they might leave alone, which would suggest any number higher than 400 is probably going to trigger something off. So how do you do your Christmas shopping then? How do you book yourself, you know, a room in a hotel? Plane tickets, flights can easily, we know if you're traveling to different parts of the world, plane ticket flights can easily be 500, you know, 600, sometimes 700 pounds or dollars or euros or whatever, particularly if you're going long distance or it's part of a holiday. What is that? Those transactions going to be blocked, or they're going to be mandatorily monitored and stuff like this? Where does it end? Yeah. So I wanted to share this stuff to give you guys a perspective of some of these manifestations when before they came true may have seemed outlandish, but we're a year on now. I made these, you know, predictions back in December of 2022. It's now November 2023. Yeah, like I said, again, 29th of November 2023. And so much has come true since then. It's particularly things as well, outer space technology. You know, Mexico's had a proper debate on alien life forms that they found. I mean, they look like these kind of little sculptures, but, you know, when they actually scan them, you can see the bones and everything. I mean, it's just astonishing what has happened in the world, you know, thus far. And of course, we have AI and stuff like that. But I will end on a positive. Before, though, let me just quickly, before I forget, because I did say I would mention it. So what I'm going to do is, let's turn this to the side. There we are. I want you to see this, and this is me yapping. Get the volume up. So Saturn will go retrograde 17th of June 2023 until the 4th of November 2023. So that's a long time. Yeah, it was retrograde for a while. Was it June, July, August, September, October, November? No, it's been about 5 months. Anyway, so watch out for that. Now, scrutiny and regulation of e-coins, that's what I was talking about, or cryptocurrency, and possibly central bank regulated coins hitting the financial markets to provide a safe space for traders, investors, and banks. So crypto is not dead as a concept, but blockchain and those related technologies are very popular and are being integrated into companies and stuff. From 2023 through 2025, this duration of Saturn, 2.5 years in Aquarius, we're going to see a massive moving forward of tech innovation for absolutely everything and all different kinds of stuff. So get ready. It's not going to happen overnight, but there's going to be strong push to centralized e-bank crypto of some kind or another, and particularly when Uranus moves into sidereal Taurus in 2025, it will become global. Yeah, so get yourselves ready for that. Right, what have I put here? Development of all new kinds of tech, cutting it there. Yeah. So I just thought I would share that. Let me just turn this back around so you can see. Yeah, you can see that prediction was made on, like I said, the 22nd of December 2022. Now look, so when you look at the blog, please, if you can, follow all the links. There's all the things as well where I talk about the consolidation of, you know, the Hoover, as you know, which is a W and a H and a O, yeah, because, you know, things are monitored. And they want to bring in a global digital health pass that they're calling, and they're doing that in collaboration with the EU Commission. And of course, Christine Lagarde, of course, is, you know, part of one of the directors of the EU Monetary Fund and stuff like that. Do you see how it all starts to come together? But when we're distracted by either Netflix or Life or Duck L'Orange or blah blah blah, it's easy to miss these things. And it's no one's fault per se. I mean, it's not by accident. You know, there's a lot of stuff that is kind of, you know, tickled in under the carpet. What I also include in the blog as well is a link to the UK petition that we had, which wanted to go up against over 156 people signed a petition. In the UK, if you get over 100,000 signatures or more on a various topic, has to be debated in Parliament. Pardon me. That debate happened and the government gave their response, and essentially they said they see no reason that the UK should have to have a referendum on these rules and regulations that the Hoover wants to bring in, and who incidentally basically have diplomatic immunity, them and their families. And in the blog, I also do a link to the PDF of that, stating the various companies around the world or institutions around the world that I essentially have diplomatic immunity. You can read the whole thing. I mean, it's a long document, but when you read the first 3 pages, you see it there in black and white. So what I wanted to do, and this is so much, you know, in terms of starting to get to talk about 2024, I wanted to create this blog to really kind of really show what is going on and why and how these energies are manifesting. They're happening all over the world, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's all negative. You know, some of these rules and regulations could actually turn out to be good. However, many may be presented as being benign, but the astrology is revealing everything. All we have to do is look at the world, look at your own life, what is going on, these various different things. Something really important as well to talk about is that the nodes of the moon have changed today. So here, you know, you've seen here my Hogarth eclipse calculator. Now, the nodes of the moon stay in one sign for 18 months. Yeah, they've been diddling around. Well, not diddling around, kind of causing quite a lot of havoc when they've been in sidereal Aries and Libra. When the first eclipse happened in sidereal Aries in a nakshatra called Bharani nakshatra, which deals with the female reproductive system, it's called the yoni. Guess what? All of the stuff from controversy of Roe versus Wade came out. Yeah. And this could actually be somewhat of a vote winner for the Democrats. But as of today, the nodes of the moon have moved. They've been hovering in that Gandanta point for Rahu, yeah, between water sign and fire sign are Gandanta points. So it means karmic knot, or sometimes referred to as drowning. And that happens between Pisces and Aries, Cancer and Leo, and Scorpio and Sagittarius, yeah? And it's the first 2 degrees and last 2 degrees of the previous sign. So Rahu is still in the Gandanta point. Remember, the nodes of the moon go backwards. So they start at 29 degrees and get lower. So it's going to take them 18 months or 18 and a half months to slowly, and they kind of wobble backwards and forwards, slowly move into the Aquarius Leo axis. That's not going to happen until around about the 29th of May 2025. So right now they've just clicked over. And you will see in my previous nodes video about 2024, I describe how the nodes will affect you potentially. So go back and look at that video. But what does this mean for the world? Yeah. What does this mean? It means lots of things to do with health and healing, overcoming obstacles. There's going to be lots of things to do with water in 2024 going into 2025. Why? Pisces is an oceanic sign. It's a massive water sign, but it's huge water. Rahu will also be doing his transit with Neptune, who's currently in sidereal Pisces, and he is god of the sea. So imagine Rahu expands things and explodes things. Neptune is a gas giant in Pisces, which is co-ruled by, Jupiter. So that could mean what? Expansion of all kinds of water events. There could be storms, etc., all of this kind of stuff. In fact, yesterday, I read an article where they said a huge ice block has just broken off of Antarctica or something like that. So it's, it's beginning already. So there's going to be water, either floods or too much water, not enough water. There's things going on with the sea and all of this stuff. There could be a lot of drama, a lot of storms. However, what's the positives? This could be time where maybe what I would love to see is sanctuaries, more sanctuaries in the sea, where marine areas become like protected parks. You know how we have national parks and stuff like that? We need that for areas of the seas so that the fish can actually recover and restock themselves. What I would like to see, the technology already exists, where they've engineered bacterium that eat plastic, that can eat plastic. That needs to be flung out in the world, and sprayed on the beaches and stuff, and have the bacterium digest and eat the plastic and turn it into harmless substances. There'll be lots of things to do with animals and pets this year. Pisces has a lot to do with animals and pets, but it can do with big animals as well. So there's going to be lots of stories with animals as well, that kind of thing. Maybe there might be developments in animal safety or laws against animal cruelty, or some animal talking or something like that. Maybe someone does an AI thing and the bloody dog or the cat, is able to speak. Yeah. I mean, most of you have pets anyway, and you already know, what your pets are saying to you, and sometimes I've seen videos where cats literally do speak, which is frightening. Kind of just, woo. Anyway. But there'll be stuff like that. What will also happen is a lot of people's psychic intuition is going to increase significantly. Those of you that are light workers or psychic already, you'll just see your abilities increase. I mean, I've just been feeling that anyway, just throughout the year, just like, my astrological readings now, just, my God. Oh, shout out as well to all my clients this week. Oh, before I forget, don't forget, I've got my my Christmas offer. It's only going to go on, I think, until the 8th of December. So there's not too long left now. November and December have sold out. Yeah. But January and February are not far away. So remember, here we are. You do Crimbo25 at the checkout and you get 25% off all my readings. Many of you have gone for it, and it's been great as well, just catching up with people who haven't had a reading for a while and seeing what's going on in their life. And of course, the natural thing as well is we've got 2024 coming up. The nodes have just changed for everyone, so they would have changed in your charts as well, universally for everyone. Countries, people, dogs, pets, fish, whatever, the nodes have changed for everyone and they're going to affect the next 18 months. So it might be worthwhile taking advantage of the whatever, my little tithe to everyone, and seeing what's coming up in 2024. And if not for you, maybe a loved one or something like that, which is often the case. So there's going to be that theme there with Pisces, etc. Also as well, we need to remember K2, who I call Snip Snip, Ra, who I call Gobble Gobble. K2 is going to be in Virgo. Now, Virgo is about what? Health and healing and overcoming obstacles. So there could be breakthroughs in healing modalities and research. K2 actually is a very strong research planet. He's otherworldly, but he deals with scrutiny and going deep into things. There will be more critique next year. So get ready. There will be more critique next year of medicinal practices and modalities and mandates and stuff like that. It will just happen. It's happening already. You know, there's many things going on in many countries that aren't reported on the news. And of course, we're not allowed to go into explicit detail on these things on this platform, sadly. But it is happening. Yeah. So be ready for that. You know, there's going to be a lot more stuff, a lot of disclosure, a lot of stuff coming out. There's a lot of lawsuits kind of like piling up. And, you know, already I've been seeing in places, again, not reported on mainstream news, a lot of people that lost their jobs for, you know what, have had to be re-employed and get back pay as well. And a lot of people that had to leave the army because of they didn't want, you know what. Now they're desperate to recruit people. They can't recruit enough army people. Yeah. There's lots of problems. There's lots of things that have happened as a result of certain things which should never have happened. And it wasn't even in the, believe it or not, it wasn't even in the WHO rules. When you actually look back, there were certain things that were set, certain precedents that were set. I think back in the 1940s about how countries are supposed to deal with pandemics and stuff like that, and locking down isn't actually one of them. It was supposed to be in the most extreme of scenarios. Many people would argue, yes, it was extreme, but we're all grown-ups here. Let's just use our eyes and our ears and think of all what we have learned over the last few years and look at the knock-on consequences. I remember saying to friends years ago, I wasn't believed, but whatever, that's the curse of having lots of planets in Aquarius. In my D9, you know, you predict the future, but one is rarely believed, yeah? Or one is poo-pooed. And I said, you know what? I said the things with the lockdown, I said, it's going to affect people so much. I said, you're going to see mental health plummet. So I was saying this back in 2020. Look what's happened. Mental health for young people is at an all-time low. They say 50% now of young people aged 25 or less, have suicidal thoughts. 50%. Think about that. Think about that. Once upon a time when, you know, back in the 50s and 60s and stuff like, you know, suicide was rare. When I talked to people who were young at that time, it was almost like unheard of. Yeah. Doesn't mean life was perfect, but my God, look at things now. Look at all of the conditions that got missed, you know, or what have you, and all the various different consequences of so many different things that we're still living with to this day. And there's a lot of anger and there's a lot of frustration out there. And then that, of course, affects how people how they vote. So you see, it's complex. 2024 is going to be a very complex year. But it also, as well, on the positive, it means that there's chances for, you know, innovation healings, one would hope. Maybe some accountability, because Virgo is a very detail-oriented sign, very detail-oriented sign. It's governed, of course, by Mercury. And Mercury is all about the details. It's all about accuracy. So health and healing and overcoming obstacles, this can also do with lawsuits and battles, but this can also do with innovation in those areas as well. I think more people are going to go into more alternative healing modalities. We see it already, but K2 is an otherworldly and can often be a spiritual energy. So you're going to see people maybe using more sound baths, chants, mantras, Reiki, crystals, going way into that. I mean, it's already happening already because a lot of people are trying to cure themselves of certain things, let's just say. Yeah. And I know this because I talk with my clients and they tell me what they're doing, yeah, to try and help themselves or help their friends or, loved ones, family members. It just goes on. So there's going to be lots of that, people looking into different ways to heal, to restore themselves, to repair themselves. People are going to be paying more close attention to their diets, trying to eat less sugar, all of these various different things, because health is wealth at the end of the day, and it's there's a lot going on. Obviously human consciousness is trying to rise up, but we do have these energies or these institutions or persons that are still that's still in that Kali Yuga energy, wanting to control everything, and technology and various different things are part of that. But just to finish off, to round it off, what it means is, and I'll say it again, now we're here and we're coming up this way. Yeah, coming up this way. It's going to be a while to win the age of Aquarius, but we're getting there. We're getting the flavors. But the most important thing is this. I'll say it again. Magic is coming back. It is coming back. And of course, magic is like electricity. It depends how it's used. Yeah, it can be used for good or ill or, neutral or whatever. But myself, and I'm sure you guys are the same, want the good stuff. Yeah, the good stuff to come back as time progresses, particularly as Neptune is going to be in Pisces for the next 14 years. The veil will get yet thinner and thinner and thinner. He is back to the place where he was in the beginning of the spiritualist movement in America. Remember, we started with the Fox sisters, and then you had Madame Blavatsky, and then you had Edgar Cayce, and the seances and all of the various incredible manifestations that happened at that time. It's taken about 160 years for it to happen again, but that's what it means. Neptune is back in sidereal Pisces, and I cover that in my book that I've written, which I'll have come out in 2024 at some point, hopefully early 2024, where I cover that, the energies of that. And you've seen, I've done my Edgar Cayce videos, Madame Blavatsky, I'll do some more spiritual oriented people, but that energy is coming as well. So look, there can be that good magic that can be manifest and put out into the world to counter some of those more difficult and stressful narratives out there, because my God, aren't they trying? I mean, look at Doc Larange. Yeah, he's saying, look, he wants to be a dictator. That's basically what he's saying, So those that are still willing to vote for that, they can't pretend anymore. They can't say that they didn't know. Yeah, the times of naivety with Trump have gone. Yeah, anyone who says, oh, I didn't know, they're lying. Yeah, they're lying. We know what he is. He says, when I come back, I'm going to take revenge. I'm going to lock everybody up, and I'm going to make sure that that I never leave the job. And he praises dictators all over the place and blah blah blah. And that's what he said. And you remember what I've said for the longest time. I said, in his constant lying, he's always telling the truth. Yeah, he lies about so many things, many things, but he tells the truth about certain things. So people need to stop. Those who are still in this miasma, who want to vote for that. That's what you're voting for. Yeah, they obviously believe it's not going to apply to them. It's just going to be other people. Yeah, other people that have to, go and pick the corn in the fields or whatever they've got planned. Or, women will just be barefoot and pregnant again. And, brown people will know their place and blah, 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 and all the rest of it. Yeah, which is really what this whole BS is all about. Let's just call it what it is, because it's naked now. It's obvious. What's also obvious as well is that this guy needs to be just locked, and then I'm mentioning that in the article, he just needs to be locked away for his ill-gotten gains behind thick walls of concrete without no windows, and just wheeled out from time to time for his public court cases and flung back in jail again. Let me tell you, they take away his money and we take away the attention, or the media actually stops giving him so much bloody attention. He won't last half an hour. Anyway, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But he's still, because of the way things are, and there's so many millions out there helping him, he's still in there with a chance. I still say it's unlikely. It would take a miracle or a huge act of evil for him to get back in. But I don't underestimate as well those that are trying their best to do those things. But aside from that, we can rise in our consciousness, we can improve, and we can do the good magic. So remember that, look into that, and I'll discuss things like that, particularly once my book's out and stuff like that, and we can work our magic together. So I'll leave it there. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and goodbye for now. Mwah! Big kiss. Bye-bye.